Random thoughts is guaranteed. Now we on this Grand Canyon subject, right? So tell me this. Quick questions. So the Grand Canyon is just a wildlife preserve, right? That's full of statues, even though there was no civilized people here before slavery, right? Before the Europeans came here, there was no sophisticated civilization here. So where did all of those statues come from? Why is there a city-like, cave-like place in the Grand Canyon that can house thousands of people? Why? Why did they find hundreds of jars of baby skeletons in the Grand Canyon? Ancient, old-ass jars of baby skeletons in the Grand Canyon. Why is the Temple of Isis a gigantic pyramid in the Grand Canyon that's larger than every pyramid in Giza? Why is it that there's more pyramids in the Americas than all of the pyramids combined around the world? Why is that? What is that about? Why are there so many statues in the Grand Canyon and monoliths if it's just a wildlife preserve? If the Grand Canyon is not a quarry, it's just something that came from erosion, then why does it look exactly like a quarry? How is it that all of these different countries were fighting to come here to find El Dorado? Now we see the Grand Canyon is dug up like a mining quarry, but the El Dorado was just a myth though. There was no gold. Even though we know the majority of the gold that was found here in Americas came from the West Coast. We know that. That's what the whole Spanish-American War was about. Resources, right? And what did America take during that war? They took California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. You know, these are the places that are directly attached to the Grand Canyon, right? Why is that? Why is it that these different temples in Egypt depict animals that are only native to North America? The falcon, the hound, they're only native to North America. You can't even find fossils of these animals on any other continent other than North America, even though they were chiseled on walls in Egypt thousands of years ago. But black people only got to America during the slave trade hundreds of years ago, but were recognized by multiple South American countries as native and indigenous to this land dating back at least 10,000 years ago. Why is that? How is it that Mansa Musa's older brother left with a fleet of 2,500 ships directly to the Americas, but we couldn't cross an ocean until the Europeans brought us here just a few hundred years ago, right? Why is it that the oldest spearhead found in the Americas is 95% gold and 5% copper, the smell of African royalty? But the Grand Canyon is just a wildlife preserve. It's the only wildlife preserve that no one can go to. Why is it that there's a giant pyramid in there, but nobody can go? We can go to the pyramids of Giza because that's where they want us to believe the shit started. But if it started there, why is there so many more pyramids in the Americas than there is there? There are more pyramids in the Americas than the entire world combined. Why is it that the legend tells that Atlantis resides in between the two Sphinx? All right. But there's only one Sphinx in Egypt. But you look at the Temple of Isis in the Grand Canyon, and it looks like it's a giant Sphinx in front of it. Then if you look at the location, just use Google Maps. I know y'all love Google. Use Google Maps and use the location of the Temple of Isis in the Grand Canyon in relation to the Sphinx in Giza. And you'll see right smack dab in the middle of those two places is the Bermuda Triangle. What are the fucking odds of that? The Bermuda Triangle is right in between those two places. And it tells you that Atlantis is in between the two sphinx. What are the odds? But you know, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Let's just go with Google AI and let's believe everything that Google AI says, because we no longer can think for ourselves or do any proper research to find truth in this world. We just believe whatever the liars tell us, and we just go with that story and feel comfortable in our ignorance. Crazy fucking work.